to do a podcast, you got to get yourself a semi-professional engineer, and we have one when he works. Anyways, good morning. It is Sunday. It is not just any Sunday. It is a Sunday as we start to get closer and closer to the primaries in the state of Florida, which are going to be a bloodbath in a number of ways. Hopefully, on one party and not the other. We'll find out. But we have so much to talk about. We have so many things we have to deal with. So let's just jump into this rotation. Okay, let's just jump into it by starting out introducing ourselves. My name is Gary Stun. I'm the executive producer of this shebang, and also our master of public health and the policy and political director of Suncoast Normal. And that's where you're supposed to press the button for my applause.
You didn't hear it? I pressed it as soon as you said it.
It really did sound kind of weak, but I'll take that. And to my right, our fantastic engineer. I mean that with absolutely no sincerity. Carlos Angel Armida, who, by the way, is also our master of business administration and the proprietor of Chillum Mushroom and CBD dispensary in Ybor City, the fantastic. And I went to Ybor City for the first time in a while, and I witnessed the new bricking of the streets. I got to tell you, I don't like the bricking of the streets.
Why don't you like the bricks?
I mean, I get the fact that, they had this idiot who went ahead and he plowed into a restaurant back in October during a police chase and several people got killed and all that bit. I get that. But it is so hard on the suspension to have to drive on those damn bricks. I mean, when I was in Baltimore over at Johns Hopkins University, they had an entire street that was made out of bricks like that to make certain everybody doesn't go any faster than 10 miles an hour. And it's a city, for God's sakes. People have to go faster than that. What if you're trying to run from the cops? I mean, seriously, you can't do it with those kind of speeds.
Well, I think that's like the goal of what they were trying to do. Like, you're kind of reinforcing what they're saying.
Yeah.
But one thing that's is especially about Ybor City is that there's tunnels in the ground, right? So when you have a flat asphalt road, right, it stays level. But when you have bricks, right, a lot of times these tunnels, they get filled with water, they start to cave in. A lot of the brick roads around here, you start to see like little concave things, like little people dropping in and out. Hey, Keno's here. Look at that.
Hey there. Good morning, everyone.
I thought you were in the mountains.
I am in the mountains, so if you see me drop off, I'll probably drop off permanently. But I am here.
Well, if we see a little boy with a banjo, we'll know exactly where you are in West Virginia.
Yeah, sadly, but the way the world is going right now, this ain't a bad place to be.
I suppose. Okay. And that, of course, is our executive director coming to us from somewhere in the middle of somewhere in West Virginia. Wheeling, where exactly are you near there?
I am sitting on a lake in the mountains.
Ooh.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I decided to take some precautionary measures after I noticed that someone's been going through my mail at the post office. So,
well, as long as you're not paranoid, that's fine. Okay, and of course, I need to get into our guest for today because I know he's here and he's got so much to do afterwards. So let's get into this. Let's just start out by saying that none of us here are fans of Randy Fine. We have dealt with him in the House in the Florida legislature for many years, attacking us basically every time we got up to the DS to go ahead and testify on any of the bills we've ever had. I remember one particular time, and we had a video of this, and I don't think we found it in time, when I was going ahead and putting down the normal agenda. I gave it to the entire committee, who was at that time working on the cannabis bills, on the cannabis law here in Florida, making it a medical state. And after I handed that out, which talked about making certain that people don't lose their jobs for having a medical card, make sure they don't lose their kids for having a medical card, make sure that people don't have their Second Amendment rights taken away for having a medical card. making certain that people who come here on vacation don't get arrested for having a medical card from another state and trying to get medicine over here.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. All fairly positive things. And of course, Randy says, it says to the chairman, may I speak with him, please? And I said, yeah, go ahead. And so he said, Mr. Stein, do you believe it's right for a kid to be smoking a joint in school? I said, sir, we're talking about medical cannabis here.
Yeah.
You didn't answer my question. Do you think it's right for a kid to be smoking cannabis in school? I said, sir, as you know, we have a Florida Indoor Clean Air Act. You're not allowed to smoke anything, whether you're an adult or a child in school. That's number one. Number two, if it's a kid, most likely if he's using it medically, he's probably not using smoking. He's probably using capsules for things like Crohn's, the things that the kids are actually using. So to answer your question, no, there's no reason for a kid to smoke a joint in school. He says, you're not answering my question. He looked at me again. He says, do you think it's right for a kid to be smoking a joint in school? I said, sir, asked and answered. I don't understand what you're trying to ask here anymore. He just wouldn't let up. But that's Randy. Once he gets his mind into one tunnel, he can't get out of that damn tunnel.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm glad to be able to talk to somebody here who's going to make certain he doesn't do any more damage in Congress. Because obviously, as somebody who is a proponent of knocking down anti-Semitism, I think Randy Fine goes far too far. He's creating more anti-Semitism that he's getting rid of.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree.
with that in mind, I'd like to introduce our guest today. Ronnie Murchinson-Rivera is coming to us from New York. I had a lot of fun working in New York City when I was in the Centers for Disease Control. I was in Fort Greene.
Oh, nice. Brooklyn, baby.
A lot of fun out there. And you were EMS out there?
I worked the EMS out there, yeah.
Yeah, well, I bumped into you guys a lot. Unfortunately, drawing blood in these open air drug markets in that area, which are plentiful.
Yeah.
A lot of times you have overdoses in the corner as people grab their merchandise and rush off to medicate somewhere underneath a scaffold.
That's what they do. New York is a different breed.
So first off, what brings you to Florida?
You said what brings me to Florida?
Yeah.
Man, listen, me, my wife, and my kids, we were just tired of that doggone snow.
Yeah, being a Floridian who's moved up north to work, I am with you, Ronnie. That snow is something else.
that slush you get, man, I fell too many times in that part. I was tired.
Yeah. This legislative session in Annapolis, slipping on the ice, I realized very quickly I needed to switch out those Steve Madden boots for some Timberlands. It was the only way to not fall.
That's right. That's why we wear them up there.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to take the giant jump? And it is a giant jump because there's a lot of work and a lot of effort and a certain requirement of hubris to run for Congress. You have to believe in yourself.
It's not even over yet, and it's a lot of work. But somebody has to do it. And I'm a fighter. I'm a go-getter. I've been fighting my whole life for the people. EMS is just a small part of what I've done in my 35 years of living on this earth. In New York City, of course, I worked in EMS, but I did much more than that. I also sat on school boards, stood up for children, volunteered my time as a music teacher out there, was the Parent Teacher Association Vice President, started a nonprofit to help my community, moved to Florida, got into law enforcement. I did that for almost since 2017 up until last October. Volunteered the youth football coach, sat on a union board, standing up for the police officers. I mean, my whole life was just fighting for people. And I got into this race. I was the first one in my Democratic Party to get in this race and the first one to get qualified on the ballot by petitions because there's no game for me. This guy is spewing this rhetoric, not only in our district, but the whole country, the world. I mean, he's hated everywhere. When you have the guts to sit up here and say you're going to nuke children and have children starve and die, I mean, you got to be some kind of monster to sit up here and attack innocent children. And he continues to do that. And so I couldn't sit back anymore. I'm a father. I got 5 children. I'm a foster parent. I get children all the time just to help them. I have a foster daughter who gave me who made me an early grandparent. And so my entire life, I literally dedicated to children. And that was my tipping scale when he told children to starve and die. I don't care what the hell is going on. I don't care whose fault it is. I can promise you it isn't those innocent children. And that was my fed up point. And he just continues going. I mean, I'm glad I did it because I'm not only hearing from people outside of the district, people are in the district who actually voted for this guy, who voted for Donald Trump. It's fed the hell up, and I'm all for it. So we're gonna get that guy out of here this November.
Now, you are talking about Florida's 6th congressional district. Was that changed at all when they did the redistricting?
The most recent one?
Yes.
No.
Well, that's good because so many people have districts that are so much different from what they did when they first even tried to qualify. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the crux between 12 and 15 here, and I was in the 12th congressional district. Now I'm in the 15th. Yeah. And my district actually goes all the way from Sumter County down to Ybor City.
Yeah.
That's a 90-mile trek.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow Ron DeSantis and it believes that this is supposed to be better representative for the people, and I'm not seeing it because I don't see how Sumter County and Ybor City have the same problems other than Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I agree. I worked in Sumter County. That's where I was a deputy sheriff at in the villages, and that's a far drive, and it's a different atmosphere, I can say.
Is that what Sumter County is? It's the villages.
Oh yeah.
It's right smack it up there. Yeah, with such hot spots as Bushnell,
yeah,
and Wildwood, which is not wild at all, and they're bowling down the woods as we speak. So I don't know why they call it Wildwood anymore. But I have to ask you this question because I watch the police blotters constantly. It just seems like there's an awful lot of pretextual arrests occurring on I-75 as you're getting close to the exit for the thing, and they're pulling people over constantly. They were bragging about the fact that they caught a guy with something like 400 ounces in his car, which is, I guess, he shouldn't have been doing. But they pulled him over because they said that he had a dimmed tag light.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the expressway, where you're going 70 miles an hour, it's hard to tell if somebody has a dimming tag light. I would have to say that's most likely a pretextual stop where they had some idea that if they stopped this guy, they could arrest him for something else. That's the only way I could possibly think.
Yeah.
Is that the way they think up there? Because I see them doing it more and more lately.
That's the way every cop thinks, and that's something that if you don't know what to go in court and argue about, you wouldn't know. Yes, there's a law that says you're supposed to have 2 working. You're supposed to have. It didn't even say 2. It says you have to have a bright enough light to be seen from 200 feet behind you up to 500. It's in between here. Don't quote me to it. I've been out of this for a few months. But if you're going 70 plus miles per hour on a highway and I'm standing still, how can you see somebody license plate light? Like it just blows my mind. And I had a case just like that. And it wasn't me. I was sitting in court where it was being heard in Lake County when I was a cop from Mount Dora. And the judge dismissed it because how can you really tell somebody license plate if you're not behind him, you're just sitting still on it's just those pretextual things that people use the law to get over. And I hope that person's lawyer fight it tooth and nail because these cops use it as a pretextual stop. And they're using those things a lot now as well for these ICE operations. Just to stop because you look a different skin color, they'll use, you went over the line a little bit. Well, golly, I'm going 75 miles per hour. Just because my wheel is touching the line doesn't mean I'm drunk or I'm doing something wrong. It happens.
Ronnie, I'm glad you brought that up because for the listeners on this show, this is a issue that's near and dear to their hearts. Is how policing occurs and the loss of trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve is a major issue of our time, and we see that. Despite the fact that it's now legal medically in 41 states, that half the country has legal adult use, we still see a disproportionate amount of African American and Latino citizens pulled over by cops and have their cars tossed, even if they have legal weed on them. Yeah. And I mean, it's just mind-boggling to see that we still live in a society where your civil rights as a pot smoker is trampled upon. I mean, Gary pointed it out. I mean, having a conversation with the delegation, speaking to the congressman who sits in the seat that you're seeking to represent, the person that you want to unseat, has no concept that kids are being taken away from their parents and that people are being fired from their jobs just simply because they use a different medication than some of the other doctors are recommending. And in this disparity is just it doesn't work for folks. And so we just wanted to hear some more from you on that. Like, what do you think about policing and especially in the era where we're in this transitional phase of moving from being Schedule 1 and illegal federally to now President Trump saying that yes, cannabis, medical marijuana is legit medicine.
Absolutely, and I'm all for it. Right before you guys came on here, we were talking about it a little bit, and I was born in New York City, and I was a paramedic out there. I worked in EMS out there. I was a cop out here, and I never saw anything wrong with THC marijuana, and that's through my whole entire public service career. I told the story that about 10 years ago, about 15 years ago now, I went to a call of I think she was 2 years old. She was having a seizure. The mom called us just in case she stopped breathing. But the mom said, I don't want to give you no medication. I don't want to do nothing. She took THC oil, put it on her pinky, put it in the girl's mouth, and she stopped seizing quicker than my medicine would have made her stop seizing. And ever since that day, I believed in THC and that it worked. And I got friends, family members that currently use it for things like stress and anxiety, and it works. It works. Pain, right? It works. So coming down here, that's why I got into law enforcement, because of course the minority and the Black and the Latinos and people are being used as pretextual stops for marijuana. I had a friend who pulled over a mom who worked at 7-Eleven, and who he tried to arrest her for having this much of a clip on her, a joint. And I'm like, man, to take her to jail for possession of marijuana, less than 20 grand for this. She works at 7-Eleven. Her bond is going to be $500. You take it away from our kids, man. It's not worth it. And I'm so glad that the court system in Florida has now gotten rid of, and I think it's an entire United States now, but I'm not sure. But I know Florida, they can't use plain smell as a reason to search a car anymore. It has to be something else. We used to walk up to you, smelled it, be like, yep, get out the car, let me search. And you could have nothing. No, you could have just came from a house that smelled like marijuana. We could have. Listen, I agree with you. These cops out here abuse their power and use it as pretextual where they know, trust me, they know that, and I'm telling you this as a DUI cop, because I did that for majority of my career, DUI. I never arrested anybody.
I actually have a few questions for you, because this is a particular point of expertise for you.
Yeah.
Currently, I mean, right now the question is how are cops going to be able to arrest people for driving under the influence of marijuana? Because it's a particularly difficult thing to do. Most drug tests test like your blood for the presence of THC, so it's like a 30-day thing. A lot of times these saliva tests that they've come out with, things like that, they're inaccurate. You can take that and pop the test and not be stoned at all, and it be a couple of days since you've what do you think? Like, should we be concerned about arresting people for driving under the influence of marijuana? Is that like a big issue? If so, what would be like the best method to do that?
So I'm gonna always say, please don't drive high, because that gives them a reason to arrest you, and it's still technically illegal. But what I'm trying to say is that we have all these other problems that actually cause death and despair to people's lives. I never heard not one case where THC caused somebody to kill another person or themselves. It's always marijuana. I mean, it's always alcohol or some other kind of drug, strong drug, whether it's codeine or any kind of those technically legal prescribed drugs, they say. You're right. The only thing they can try to convict somebody off of marijuana for nowadays is something called a DRE, which is a drug recognition expert. That person will come down and do some tests to your eyes, and literally it's based off their testimony only. because, as you say, marijuana is becoming legal now. And for me, when I get to Congress, I'm going to continue to push what they call the MORE Act to try to federalize it and make it, and extinguish a lot of people records who have been federally convicted by stuff like that. But the only real thing they can do right now is go based off that DRE's testimony. Because as you say, if you got medical marijuana and it's legal and you take it yesterday, that stays in your system for a while. How can you prove that I did it at that moment before I started driving? Or if I'm still affected by the first-hand effects of marijuana? You can't. So I've been seeing a lot of THC cases being dropped. A lot of those are really hard to prove in court. A lot of state attorneys and prosecutors will drop that so quickly because there's no evidence that can convict you beyond a reasonable doubt that can be like, hey, jury, look, because they'll start asking those questions like you're asking. Well, when exactly did they take it? What were their effects? You can't prove that right then and there. So a lot of cops are getting away from stopping you and taking you to jail for.
We had an employee. I had an employee that ended up getting a DUI, and you can watch the video of the whole thing. They gave her a roadside DUI test. They had her walk the straight line. They had her stand on one leg, and you could see in the video he was looking into her eyes, and then he turned around and he motioned to the other cop. He's like, yeah, her eyes fluttered. She must be high. And I think the thing about it was that it was more like she's a white girl with dreadlocks that, that just took the wrong turn in the wrong neighborhood. Yeah. And I think that had more to do with it than anything else. But it's like you said, she took it to court. She got a good attorney. We helped her get a good attorney, and ultimately the case got dropped.
I could bet you if I look at that video of her roadside test, she if in my opinion, I probably wouldn't have took her to jail based off those tests, because marijuana actually make you more focused and aware of those things than if you are on alcohol.
This girl is a yoga teacher. She can stand on her leg for 3 days straight. She can stand on one leg for 3 days straight. I'm willing to bet that she just did the test flawlessly. I'm willing to bet this guy didn't even see her eyes flutter.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, Carlos, you bring up a great point, though, is that the street level bureaucrat in America has a lot of power over your freedom and your civil rights. Yep. And so when we talk about changing policing in America, it isn't, defund the police, it's retrain the police. It's take away this the unscientific methods that are being used. I've advocated for this in the state of Maryland when looking to pass the first responder employment protection bill, is that the invading people's bodily privacy, whether it's through a urinalysis or a hair sample, those things don't, as you said, indicate impairment. Impairment can be determined regardless of cannabis or any other substance in the modern era with a 90-second test on an iPad or a tablet or an iPhone. So, why aren't we empowering our cops to hand that to people? Hey, here's this tablet. Press this real quick. Let me see if you can even drive a heavy vehicle, right? Rather than, like you said, taking someone to jail, taking their blood, running up the bills in the legal system. And so much of the legal system it is running up the bill in a lot of ways. And we have a lot of reforms in our judicial system that we need. Ronnie, I'm glad that you're someone in Congress who has the street level experience to take those into those halls, because so often we see too many millionaire lawyers sitting in Congress making decisions for the rest of us, and they live in this bubble. But you're the guy who's not in the bubble. You've been in the trenches for decades, and so that's awesome. I'm glad to have you on the show, and I'm glad that we're talking about these things, because I think you bring a unique perspective. And as Gary pointed out, you definitely bring a perspective that Randy Fine doesn't have to Congress. So that is a benefit in itself.
I don't think he got nothing up there, but that's my opinion. Let me.
The next topic.
So Gary, that's what I'm saying. I think Randy's yarmulke, because he always has it stitched on. He never takes it off. Okay, that's probably where they drilled his brain out, and then they replace it with whatever propaganda programming he has for the week for the powers that be.
In fact, he never wore that in Tallahassee. Not until he got to DC did he suddenly figured he had to have a kippah on at all times. It is possible his brains are starting to shoot out and they're trying to keep them in. I don't know. But it's a possibility. But I did have to ask a question of Ronnie, and that is the fact that, do you think that PTSD affects first responders, as in EMT and police and firemen?
Yes.
And if I went to a sheriff like Chronister, like Walteri, like Naco, like Niehaus, and said, we think that your officers, when they're off duty, if they have a propensity towards PTSD, to be able to treat themselves so that they'll be better officers when they get on duty, you think they would say yes or no?
They should say yes.
Yeah, every one of them has said no. Unfortunately,
Wow.
I have brought it to every one of them, and I think that we would even have a better relationship with police if they understood more about the medical effects. And I have seen the effects of PTSD on EMT, on first responders, and who can't unsee the things they've seen.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd be the first person to say, when I first started my career at EMS, I thought I was a tough guy, and I saw one of the worst calls I ever saw, and now I'm a crybaby. I see things, I cry, and I'll tell you this. Let me tell you, they say that, man, we got to be tough, man. It's okay for men to cry. Like I had to learn that the hard way, that it's okay seeing, babies dying and being decapitated by their own parents and stuff. Those are things I saw, and that was one of the cases I had that actually made me go to my supervisor and said, I think I need to talk to somebody, because I just had my daughter not too long before that, and then I saw this baby, and I'm like, my God, I think something is going on. Let me talk to somebody. And I'm not saying I'm gonna harm myself. I'm not saying I'm gonna harm anybody, but I'm like, something is different. Like every time I go somewhere, I get this feeling of, is this baby like dying? And it would just be the baby fell on the knee. Like it was something going on. So PTSD is very real. It doesn't only happen to veterans that see shit overseas. It happened to our men and women that's fighting these battles at home. And even people outside of law enforcement, fire department, EMS, just everyday people. Our body, I don't think we're made to see those things. And then imagine seeing those things every single day. So of course, PTSD is one of those things that I think every cop, every fire department, every law enforcement and EMS and EMT needs to go get checked out. Even if you think there's nothing wrong with you, like me, I sat down and talked with that therapist, and she, trust me, it's okay. Go get that help.
Now, Chronister, I like the guy kind of. I mean, he's very personable, and I get the fact that he backed out of his drug czar position that he was offered. But he said, "Look, we have acupuncture, we have yoga, we have situational tests and things of that sort." And I said, "Does any of those things really, really work?" He said, "Well, we hope so."
Mm.
I said, "Well,
Gary, did the Hillsborough County Sheriff tell you that stretching is what they recommend for PTSD? Because that's what I just heard in my head when I processed the words and translated them. It's like, oh yeah, our guys stretch and we prick their skin, and that's supposed to help them with the pain of seeing dead babies and people ODing."
He said we have a vibrant EPA program, employee assistance, and he said that again. We have acupuncture, and I said I don't see that as viable, but I can show you studies that show that PTSD is vastly well treated using cannabis and I can show you that first responders could use it on their off hours when they're not on duty and they're not on call.
Yeah.
So that they will be the best they could be when they are when they're out there on the job, and everybody has to have everybody else's backs, and they have to treat the public properly.
Just to make a point, and probably doesn't have much to do with where we're going with this interview, but Florida used to have quite a bit of veteran groups that would help educate other veterans on how cannabis is helpful. And ever since the bunker closed down, I think they're completely out of commission at this point. There's no Weed for Warriors anymore. There used to be like 5 Weed for Warrior chapters in the state. Buds for Vets, I believe they're still around, but I haven't heard much from them. And now the bunker's done. So I mean, I think it might be a good point at this show, maybe to tell people how they could, get some help.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's working in New York City. Those law enforcement out there allowed to use it, and they're doing a lot better. I know a few cops personally out there that's using marijuana now. Ever since New York City laxed their marijuana laws.
Really, I did not know that. So the cops in New York City can go to a dispensary and get cannabis.
Yeah, they actually got a new policy that says that if say how you get into a car crash on duty or anything, they take your drug test. They cannot use the marijuana factor anymore because they, like you said earlier, they can't prove they took it yesterday or last month. So now cops are allowed to use it out there anytime, and if they get into a car accident the next day when they perfectly, even if they didn't use it in days, it's still in their system. They can't use that test against them anymore. So there are more cops using it. And I'm gonna personally say that when I went to New York not too long ago, we saw cops using it. And probably shouldn't have been using it on duty, but this is Brooklyn we're talking about. I'm just letting y'all know. So,
well, if Mayor Mamdani can go to the dispensary, I don't see why our fine officers in blue can as well.
I think slowing cops down a little bit might be helpful. Like there might be less brutality, and if they just stop and think and hit a joint for a second, and what's really going on here.
Yep.
I mean, it really helps when your first responders can actually think clearly, because that is exactly how we need them. Just like how we need parents to be at their best when they're parents, and that brings me to the next topic that we've been discussing a lot on this show, and that is we still have Child Protective Services still taking kids away for having parents who happen to have a medical card and using it to take care of their PTSD or to take care of whatever infirmity they have, disabling condition they have. And yet it happens every single time. And we've had a bill that we've put through several times. It's actually gotten to be filed, but never gotten to committee. So we're still working on that. And that's going to have to be a change at the legislative level here in Florida, which we are also working on. But it basically says that you can't take away kids just because there's a medical card involved between the parents, because just using medical cannabis is not reason enough to take your kids away, because you've seen the damage that the foster system can do to kids.
That's what I was about to tell you. It's like not even a foster system. I worked as a law enforcement. We go with CPS to these calls most of the time because they don't like going by themselves. The things I have seen where CPS have left that child in the house, and you're going to tell me about some medical marijuana. I literally had to tell CPS one day that if you don't take this child, I will. Like, that's how bad it was. The house is filthy. There's feces everywhere, no food in the house, there's garbage everywhere. And they were like, well, the kid got a place to sleep and the mom got cans of food in the cabinet. That's enough for me. I'm like, are you crazy? I said, if you don't do it, I will. And I had to call her supervisor. The supervisor came, took the child, and I arrested the parent for child neglect. Like it was that bad. And the CPS worker was literally about to leave that child in the house with that parent. And not only that, the kid had bruises on her, probably wasn't being watched. That's how we got the call in the beginning that the neighbor called about the unsafe environment. And then you're telling me that they're willing to take children away for medical marijuana. Now, like, that blows me. Like, look how many children has died in the foster care system because of abuse and neglect. And you're sitting over here telling me that a perfectly good home, just because the mom believed that this medical, because that's what it is, it's a medical drug, can work for their kind of medical issues. You want to take them away? That just blows me. Those are the things that I hate seeing, because I've seen on EMS and cops way worse. We've seen stories on the news and stuff where kids are being left in homes that was reported that the mom is literally physically abusing them. And now we got these cases where the children are killed by their parents, and you're telling me about medical marijuana. That shouldn't even be on the list of things.
Well, Ronnie, I'm glad you have this perspective because we're going to need it in Congress. There is so much inaction by the people who have power right now. Whether it is the president, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's the people that are elected in Congress, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we still have, we're touching on first responders and workplace protections, but so many average Americans are still losing their jobs, and they're doing everything right. They went and got the doctor's recommendation. They paid for the medical card. They go to the licensed dispensaries. They only carry it in the manner recommended in the laws asking them to do, and they still will lose their license, whether they're a teacher or a psychologist or daycare worker, and these are people who may have been veterans, who may have been first responders, who have injuries that have caused chronic pain, or have injuries where the scars aren't even visible. And in the grand scheme of things, so many Americans, even I recall when President Biden took office, there were tons of people who got appointments that ended up losing their jobs because they couldn't keep the security clearance for one reason or another. So there's actual legislation that can be passed through Congress to fix this. And I hope that you'll champion workplace protections for all Americans as long as they're following the law and doing what they need to do in regards to medical cannabis.
And I could tell you here right now, that's exactly my goal. And you talk about legislator. We don't even need the legislators right now to make that. The president of the United States could write up a policy, executive order, and federalize that to make it not a scheduled drug and make it and wipe away all these people rights. In Florida, majority of the people wanted it not too long ago. 58% of the people voted for Amendment 3. Is it Amendment 3? Yeah, Amendment 3. Ron DeSantis and this administration here in Florida did that on purpose. They put it from the simple majority of 50 plus 1 to 60 because they know a lot of people don't come out and vote. And what's mind-boggling to me is that when they passed it from 51 to 60%, only 58% of people voted for the 60% threshold. So it tells you that we have to, this government is like playing with policy. They do things on purpose, but it shows you that Florida is pushing for a change. Recently, those amendments, the petitions, they're messing with that. It's just a lot going on. A lot of people want people to get the help by medical marijuana or any kind of way that can help them. And Florida has voiced their opinion. 58% is a lot. Florida hasn't passed a lot of things more than 52, 53%. So when that came out for 58%, it's like, man, this is what we want. And those are things I'm a champion for in Washington. And at least I can push these states with some kind of incentives or tax breaks or something to push past legislation in the local states to make it not illegal to be fired or anything by that with medical marijuana, because technically it's a medical condition, especially if a doctor says you need it. And we actually could go further and enshrine that into the HIPAA Act to make it, not being able to be retaliated on due to medical conditions.
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons the HIPAA was involved, is to make certain that the healthcare providers don't give out the kind of information that can weaponize health information. People don't understand.
I'm glad you got this perspective, Ronnie, because it's going to matter in Congress. It's going to matter for people, and I'm sure folks listening, whether they're Trump supporters or regretful former Trump supporters or anti-Trump people or pro-Democrat, regardless of where they fall on the political spectrum. I mean, what I see is that people are resonating with candidates who are speaking to their issues, right? And so we got so many issues with healthcare in Florida. There are tons of people who, are afraid to go to the doctor because they can't afford it. There are tons of people who were going to the doctor and were able to afford it, and now they're losing their healthcare because of decisions by Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature. Yep. And then even at the federal level, I mean, we're seeing SNAP benefits rolled back for people with dementia because they live at home with their families. So now you got tons of people like how my dad was, who, their family takes care of them in the house, and then they're cutting funding for that. whether it's for their food or their medical care, or even to pay the caregivers and the family members to, rather than putting this person in a nursing home. And then we all know how nursing homes and hospice can run up the bill, because we have legislators that run these things.
Yep.
You know, Gary, one of them is your friend, right? You know, Mr. Gates runs one of the biggest hospices all over the state. And we have such corruption between the stakeholders in making a business out of medicine and electing candidates. So, you know, the fact that you're running and you're not backed by these huge PACs and super PACs, you know, how can folks support you? Where can they go to find out more, to plug into your campaign, to uplift your voice in the Congress?
And also, where is District 6 as far as who can vote for you?
Absolutely. So let me hit on one thing. My biggest platform, when they say my policies, my biggest one is healthcare. Because I can help people get their APR rate down. I can help them get gas prices down, food prices down. But if you're not on this earth to enjoy those things, what's the point? And that's because healthcare. I literally found people dead because they can't get healthcare. So that's my number one thing. And that's not, like you said, it's not a partisan issue. That's a bipartisan issue, because we all feeling the effects of this high cost of everything in health insurance. For me, please help me out. I'm hearing from all people, independents, Democrats, Republicans, that we all have a people problem, not a partisan problem. And I'm here to fight for everybody. I don't care what your party is. I've been doing this my entire life. You can join my campaign, ronforcongress.com. They got it right here on the screen, ronforcongress.com. That's my website. Or you can @Ron for Congress, FOR, on all social medias. That's my name throughout. Or you can just type my name in Google and it pops up everything right there for you. District 6 is huge. We are heavily gerrymandered. In 2022, they gerrymandered us for no reason at all. And my district covers 6 counties: Lake County, Flagler County, Volusia County, Putnam County, St. Johns, and Marion County. It takes me 3 hours to drive one way throughout my whole district. And it was on purpose. But what we're seeing is that people from all parties are fed up, especially with this president who has promised them certain things and have actually not only backtracked, but put them in a negative with those things. And we have one of the most bigoted persons in Congress, where we have his own party and these far right extremists and far left extremists who are actually joining together to make sure this person does not get back into Congress. That's how much he is hated. And we see the people on the ground that's coming together in all parties to try to stop him from getting back in Congress. So I think I'm the best thing for this, because I've been fighting for people no matter your party. And going back to what you said about these big corporations, my nonprofit that we started in Rockaway in New York, my goal was to start a nonprofit ambulance to give people a chance to get to the hospital for free. And what's in Rockaway? A lot of nursing homes. And guess who sat on the board in EMS to give us our certificate of need? Go guess. I give you one guess. Those people who own those. So they didn't give it to us. They rejected us. But we still did other things to help homeless veterans, homeless people get food, shelter, all those things, because we were really people. And you hit right on the money. We got to get money out of politics, because that's what it is. Money and power out of politics, and get it back to the people. So join my campaign and let's change this and take back the House and Congress to make Congress for the people again.
Now you've got to get through the primary, and I hate the primaries because it's kind of like a domestic call. you got family fighting against each other. Mm-hmm. You do have 4 other candidates you're going up against. I brought you on because I think you had one of the strongest social presences, and of course you were the first one to qualify. But I'm interested in knowing what makes, when people go to the polls, if they are Democrat and they can't vote for anybody else but a Democrat in District 6, why vote for you as opposed to the other 4?
Okay, so I'm just explaining everything, my whole background to you guys. I got one of my candidates. He runs a nonprofit. I got one candidate who runs a brewery. I got one candidate who worked in retail for 20 years. I did all of that plus some. I mean, I'm like, I didn't start doing this, what I'm doing now, because I want to run for Congress. This is something you can go on my track record, go on my Facebook from 15 years ago and see that I've been in these streets fighting for people since day one. I didn't start doing this because I want my face to be out there because of Congress. This is something I'm passionate about. I've been doing my entire life. I served my entire life. And I've been a Democrat my whole life. I can't say that about every single one of my Democratic opponents now, but I can say that I've been standing 10 toes down on what I want for the people, and there's certain things that I am not going to backtrack. Healthcare is a right. I'm not backtracking on that. That's something that we're going to have to negotiate, but that's something that's have to get done. But for me, I'll just tell people, do your research. Look into the candidates that you're going to elect as your Democratic nominee to fight for you in Washington, to see if this is something they now doing just because they want to get their name out there, or this is something that they've been doing and fighting for the people their entire lives.
Well said.
You guys have one more last question for Ronnie before we let him go back and enjoy his Sunday?
I don't have any more questions. I just want Ronnie to get out there and win this thing. We need someone like him sitting in Congress, making the laws. That there are just too many. Working as a lobbyist for the labor union, I have seen that there is a disconnect when people get into office and their background matters the most of whether or not they're able to hold true to the streets that raised them in so many ways. And I can tell just Ronnie being a genuine person in the short time that we've talked on this show, he's the right person that we need representing us.
Yeah, you can handle the streets of Brooklyn. You can handle the stuff inside the Beltway.
Oh, trust me, I already was told. Listen, you guys understand. I was told, and I told people, I said, you can't have somebody in Congress who can't relate to the people. You got all these people who've been spoon-fed their entire lives and don't know how it feels when your power goes out. I already been told, hey, when you get to Congress, because I'm getting Congress, when you get to Congress, if you don't listen to even the Democratic people, they're going to put you in the furthest office, or they're going to move your parking space to 2 blocks away. I said, do it. I said, have you guys ever eaten raw noodles and ketchup to survive? I said, okay, if I got to walk an extra 4 blocks to stand up for people, okay. I grew up with nothing. I'm one of the first people to graduate from college in my family in generations. Trust me, I overcome way worse than people. I stood in the face of people. Trust me. Trust Ronnie. I got this. I got this.
Yeah, you'll recognize him because he has the longest name on the ballot.
The longest name on the ballot. My name is out there. I have a good team behind me. I have zero. Let me tell you guys, I got 0 paid staff. Every single one of my people on my team, we have almost 50 people on my team are volunteers who are fed the hell up with this administration in this Randy Fine.
The idea of like 80-year-old congressmen sitting around eating ramen noodles is just hilarious to me. It's just so funny.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you guys for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Let's do this again. Once I get elected, don't let this stop me from getting on here. I tell people, hold your elected officials accountable, because they should be doing this even when they get elected. They should be coming on podcasts, talking to the people, getting the word out. And so, and one more thing, I want to tell everybody who's watching, hold your damn elected official accountable, please. Don't give up. Just because they don't answer the phone when you call, keep calling. Trust me, they know. And if you see me at any point in time stepping out of line and doing the things that you say I'm not going to do, or that I said I wasn't going to do, tell me. Be like, slap me back into existence. Promise you. My grandmother probably won't have any issue with doing that, because she's been doing it her whole life. So please hold your people accountable, because that's what it is. We let these people get into office and they doing things like Randy Fine is doing, and people think it's okay. It's not okay. Let him know it's not okay, and hold us accountable. Please do.
Well, Randy Fine was not Mike Waltz. Okay, there's obviously a big difference in regards to who was there before him and who was there now. But a lot of people, I think, voted him in because they didn't know who he was. We in Florida knew who he was. But those of us who dealt with him in Tallahassee, so I don't think that the folks in District 6 truly knew who they were voting for in regards to Congress was concerned. So hopefully we can set them straight.
Yeah, they didn't know, because he don't even live in our district. He lives 3 hours away.
Somehow he managed to work that one out. I was wondering, because he's a little bit south of there.
Yep.
Okay, Chris, do we have news this week?
Of course, we always got news. We got some great stories that are relevant to what we touched today. So, Carlos, let's roll that beautiful footage.
love that.
Well, with the top of the normal news, I think it's important to know that Democratic lawmakers are calling on the Trump administration to commute the sentences of those federally incarcerated for marijuana violations. Congressman Steve Cohen, Congressman Stephen Horsford, and Senator Cory Booker, along with more than 24 additional Democratic lawmakers, are requesting the Trump administration commute the sentences of anyone serving time in federal prison for nonviolent marijuana-related offenses. The letter was addressed to the White House pardon czar Alice Mary Johnson, and they states, we respectfully request that you use your pardon power to commute the sentences to all those in federal prison system serving nonviolent marijuana-related offenses. I mean, we've had on our friends from the Last Prisoner Project here, and we've seen we had Randy Lanier on the show. We've seen how we've had Tommy Chong on the show. Folks are sitting in jail while there are corporations making billions of dollars selling weed. And some of these folks were selling weed just to feed their kids or pay their bills. It's crazy that we see a lot of this in America right now. And there, like as Ronnie touched on earlier, there are concrete actions that the president can take right now, that members of Congress can take. We don't have to accept the status quo in all of this. Other news, a federal judge has rejected a lawsuit from prohibitionist groups that are seeking to halt the dispensing of hemp-derived products to Medicare beneficiaries. For those of you who don't know, the Trump administration publicly announced the creation of a Medicare distribution and reimbursement program for hemp-derived products back in December. And in mid-March, the agency posted its frequently asked questions page to provide details on how it intends to dispense these hemp-derived products to beneficiaries and defining which type of products will be available under the program, as Dr. Oz, who is the head of CMS administrator, had acknowledged the official launch of the program on April 1st. And we saw the prohibitionist groups lose their minds that the fact that our tax dollars, which, I would much rather our tax dollars go to someone's grandma being able to go into Carlos's shop and get her, her CBD oil for her pain and her joints, get the help that she needs. And meanwhile, we got, we're paying, these big pharmaceutical companies ridiculous amounts of money for our loved ones to be addicted to prescription pain medicine. Doesn't make sense to me. So there's some great news going on all around there. And I think the biggest news is the fact that Normal is fighting for a seat at the table at the upcoming DEA hearings around rescheduling. We were pushed out of the ones during the Biden administration, and then those hearings were tossed out because of the DEA salting up and doing some undue collaboration and collusion with some of the prohibitionist groups, like Smart Approaches to Marijuana, that we've seen have been doing all the little dirty behind the scene tactics to salt up and slow the progress that we see around criminal justice reform. And Normal is going to demand its seat at the table because consumers need to be represented. And so shout out to all the folks on the Normal Legal Committee, our chair, Joseph Bondi, and all of our Normal board members who have been making this happen and making sure that we have a seat at the table. Normal was at the table for the first DEA hearings that happened way back when in the 70s and 80s, when the DEA's own administrative law judge says, no, it shouldn't be in Schedule 1, and somehow they still ignored that. And so we've had decades of prohibition, all because, all the hard work that Normal's been doing for so many years has been tossed aside by the government. And so when I hear naysayers say, oh, you guys have been at this 50 years, what progress have you made? Well, Georgia's the 41st medical state to come on board this month. And we have half the country with adult use. I'm damn proud of the progress that the folks like Keith Stropp in his 80s is still our chief general counsel and still representing Normal as our founder and doing what needs to happen across the country, because Normal in itself is not some big super PAC lobbying organization. It is grassroots chapters all around the country, like this one at Suncoast Normal in the Tampa Bay area, and our friends at Tallahassee Normal up at our capital of our state, and our friends down in South Florida, in Normal, Florida, and Magic City Normal, and all those folks who stepped up to the plate to say, look, this is not right. We need to end the arrests. We need to make sure people don't lose their kids, they don't lose their jobs, and people have safe and affordable access to their medicine, and that it's not run by corporations that are polluting the environment and that are poisoning us. I mean, is that too much to ask in the 21st century? And so in the grand scheme of things, I would just say, make sure that you get involved. Check your voter registration. Make sure you're registered to vote. If you see a candidate in a particular party you like, and you're not in that party, feel free to switch. Carlos is a Republican now. Carlos is going to be voting for Matt Taylor, Matt the welder, for Commissioner of Agriculture, because he knows that Wilton Simpson is a total shit brick and a bad deal for the state of Florida. And that he's going to continue to allow these big corporate cannabis companies to pollute the environment and spray horrible shit on their bud and charge you ridiculous prices for it. What's the point, guys, if we're not actually being engaged and being involved? So get off the couch, and literally you can vote from the couch now. Order your vote by mail ballot. And if you typically vote by mail, you got to request it again, because Ron DeSantis wants to make voting hard. And if you need reliable information, go to your supervisor of elections, because it's even been shown that recently the White House bought a hyperlink for vote.gov because they purposely don't want people to vote. They want to depress turnout in so many ways, because they know that if you're not casting your voice and you're not paying attention, then a small, powerful minority of people with a lot of money can make all the difference in the world, while the rest of us get screwed over. And that is not what America was about. That is not the America that so many young, brave men and women take an oath to defend and put on the uniform and protect that flag. And if you are a freedom-loving American, then it is your duty to get out there, register to vote, and make your voice heard. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, but we will have a voter guide coming out with our normal Smoke the Vote guide for the primaries and the general election. And you can always go back to YouTube and watch our archive of past episodes over the past year and see the amazing candidates that are running for office, and even the ones that aren't that great that we give a platform to, because everybody's voice needs to be heard and all the ideas need to be uplifted in order for us to make the best public policy decisions for we the people. And with that, it's the normal news.
Now, you want to make a point like that. If you're in Florida and you got a vote by mail ballot last election, don't assume one is coming this time. You have to go back and re-register to get a ballot by mail. And was there a deadline for that, Chris?
Yeah, there are typically a vote by mail request deadline is at least 30 days before an election. Our primary is in August, so get online, get them now. If you need to get if you're in Hillsborough County, go to the supervisor of elections office. Either go to the location on Falkenberg or go to the one downtown at County Center, and make sure that your voter information is up to date. Or find a valid voter registration organization that might be registering people on the streets, and you can fill out a form there and update it. But I think it's highly important that if you want to vote by mail, you got to get the form filled out ASAP, and you need to get your registration updated. So many people live in apartments, and you move from year to year, and you don't want to wind up going to the wrong polling location or being turned away at the polls and have to cast a provisional ballot. So update your address if you've moved in the past 2-3 years since the last election, and make sure that your voice is being heard and that you can vote with no problems.
And obviously we're working hard to try to change the faces in Washington, D.C., which is good. I mean, we also work very hard at Florida law, because that's where we live, but realize, of course, that federal law does preempt state law, so that if we make things happen federally, it will happen to us on a state level at some form. However, I should tell you that the rescheduling, as we have heard on our own show, will not affect the medical program here in Florida.
Exactly. Schedule 3 in and of itself recognizes medical value, but it's not a done deal either. There are still hearings. There's still bureaucratic processes. It's sad, but we have built a drug enforcement arm in this government that stretches internationally. And so there are international treaties to look at too. There's so much paperwork that has to be done before this is a done deal. So we need people to stay involved, stay woke, and stay engaged.
And we will be also having some state candidates as well. Next 2 weeks, we have 2 folks who are running for House districts, and we'll go back to doing more of the congressional folks. But we need to have the right people in office. I mean, Chris has said it, Carlos has said it, and we can't stress it enough. Politics got us into this mess, and you have to get us out. As much as we don't like it, as much as corrupt as it can possibly be, let's see if we can't actually start dragging people out of the swamp and back onto the street again where they belong, and fix the situation that's being made.
Guys, ever since I became a Republican to vote for Matt the welder in the primaries, my perspective on a lot of things have actually changed. And although I do agree that we need to get out there and vote, I think it's time that we start giving Trump his good graces on cannabis reform. I mean, come on, guys. We never give him the respect he deserves. Okay. He legalized hemp. He's legalizing ibogaine. And we're just spend all this time talking about how he's changed to Schedule 3, but people can still get arrested. I don't know. I zoned out while you were talking, Kano. But the thing is,
it's because I said stay woke and you went to sleep.
I know. And, I'm not woke anymore, guys. I see the dangers of wokeism, right? And I see the dangers of fighting to legalize marijuana and not. I'm so confused.
Papi Alcambia, look what you've done.
Well, I mean, but you said it, Carlos. He legalized hemp and then he made it illegal again. It's so confusing right now to be a Trump supporting Republican and be a pot smoker. I get it. I totally get it, guys. That's why we ask you, jump into rotation each and every Sunday and hear it here from the voices of the folks on the ground and the policymakers and the folks who want to be policymakers.
I was thinking about it though. Like, I mean, around this time last year, dude, like we were getting so much like Republican hate. Like there were people coming into the comment section every show to like talk about how we're so skewed and how we don't know what we're talking about. And that's happening a lot less now.
Now,
and I think time would tell that we're always right.
Yeah. And, Carlos, you're a Republican now. So now we're fair and balanced.
Now, I got to tell you, you should have held back on that until Matt actually came on the show. Matt, I know you're out there. I know you're watching this show right now. Possibly you're doing it in the basement so nobody else can tell, but that's okay. We want you on the show. And I am going to personally get Carlos back to becoming a Democrat if you don't come on the show. And I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I'm still trying to figure out how I can get him to eat meat, but we're working on that.
Both of you goddamn communists make me sick.
You just want to own your libs. And we're your official libs now.
It's fun just to be a dick to liberals. It's just fun. It makes me feel better about myself.
Carlos, it's even more fun to be a Democrat and troll the libs within the party. So it's okay. Some of us do that for fun as well.
Yes, and if you remember, Chris, when he was very heavily into the Democratic Party, we was trolling the centrists and the moderates because he had to be so much of a Bernie bro. But we'll work on that. That's another thing altogether.
Don't forget, I was the first person to call for Debbie Wasserman Schultz to be removed as DNC chair and even started the petition on whitehouse.gov. And so I just want to say to Luther Campbell, we also want you on the show because now you're in a heated primary with someone who we do not want going back to Congress for us. So Uncle Luke, reach out to Gary and let's book your spot on the rotation.
Absolutely. We get that going. And we want you to join the Suncoast Normal as well. I think we have a little thing up there where we put up there. How do you belong to Suncoast Normal? How do you support this show and all the things that it does and all the things that we do in Tallahassee to try to fix the laws for you? Become a member at Suncoast Normal at membership. You get all sorts of goodies, including discounts at Chillum over in Ybor City, as well as a pin and a card and the acknowledgement of an every time we're going to Tallahassee, you can go there with us and you can put your face into the face of the representatives out there who are acting like Randy Fine and tell them what for. That's what we do.
Yeah. Carlos, you got the last word?
Before I give my last word, I'd also like to say, hey, if you can't become a member, like, subscribe, comment, share, do all those things. Make sure that you send out this podcast. Everybody loves this podcast. Make sure everybody sees it. Oh my God. And smoke weed every day.